Good evening, everybody. The regular meeting of the Independent School District 279 School Board is hereby called to order at 6:08 p.m. on Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. Seated in front of you this evening, from my left to your right, and in a new order, which will screw me up all night, is Director Jessica Craig, Director Kelsey Dawson-Walton, Director Tanya Simons, myself, Director Mike Ostafi, Director Jackie Mosqueda-Jones, Director Heather Douglas, and Superintendent Corey McIntyre. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Director Craig, will you please start us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, in front of you is tonight's agenda. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion approved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the agenda as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next agenda item is the audience opportunity to address the school board. I have several cards in front of me. I've tried to group them into a logical order. I want to read this statement, which is what we've done in front of every meeting for the last year or so. And this was agreed upon by the school board. During audience opportunity to address the school board, I will call on each speaker who has submitted a speaker card. We ask that speakers keep their comments to 3 minutes. The board does not take action or discuss matters during this portion of the meeting. Speakers may be referred to the superintendent or staff if follow-up is necessary. The complete guidelines for public participation are provided on the meeting materials table in the back and on the school board section of the district website. When I call your name, please come to the microphone and state your topic, and also state whether or not you are a district resident. Now, I know there are several people here tonight to discuss some personal and very emotional issues, and to be fair, there will be a meeting set up at the middle school to discuss climate. It will be a large open session to discuss school climate and other issues, and Superintendent McIntyre will have more about that. So if you feel 3 minutes is limiting tonight, there will be a much broader time for you to be able to discuss that in a broader context. So with that, let me call up Miss Alicia Berghain.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Berghain. I am not an Osseo resident. I live out in Delano. So I just wanted to say good evening to everyone and the board members. Thank you for having me up here. Again, my name is Alicia Berghain. I'm actually a teacher for the deaf and hard of hearing. I work with students who can't hear and that are deaf. And I've been I'm an employee of Intermediate District 287, and I've been providing services to Osseo for the last 6 years. I've worked with approximately 24 kindergarten through 5th grade elementary school deaf and hard of hearing kids in a resource room. And this resource room is located at Fernbrook Elementary School. And this resource room is designed to provide services to deaf hard of hearing students whose needs are greater than the typical DHH students at their home school, so they get bused to my school. Well, tonight, I wanted to raise your awareness of some of the incredible things that are happening at Fernbrook. For my students, they self-advocate. They have confidence wearing their hearing aids, and it has grown in transformative ways. The students' MAP scores, reading and writing, have significantly improved. The students' grade level skills, before I had to do a lot of modification to the curriculum. Now they can do the curriculum. The achievement gap is closing with these populations of students. The social inclusion and acceptance of American Sign Language has been universal at Fernbrook. And it starts from the non-licensed staff, the cooks, the custodians, and the ESPs, all the way up to the principal. The other morning, I come in and he's like, "Good morning." How you got that? So it's just wonderful. They also, in elementary schools, they have interpreters throughout the entire school. You gotta envision this. And we have weekly TV news, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I all encourage you to come and watch. But it's so fun because these kids get to make news announcements about the weather and the birthdays, and their interpreter is right there on the screen. So not only does our students benefit from an interpreter, but the entire school does. It's so cool. You have to come check it out. But the most important thing I wanted the board to recognize tonight is that there are some outstanding
30 seconds
teachers
remaining.
who are doing incredible work at Fernbrook. These teachers have gone above and beyond the typical expectations of a general ed teacher. I mean, now think about it. They go to school, they sit in a classroom, they learn the curriculum, you know, it's my classroom, it's me and the students, right? And now think back, the first day of school, 2019, right? And they're frantically getting their, classroom ready, and they're like a million miles per hour, right? And I come in and I say, hey, there's going to be a deaf, hard of hearing student in your classroom. And guess what? You're going to have an interpreter in your room every single day who will be relaying everything you say. So be careful what you say. But, for some 182 days, imagine you have the general ed teacher, kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. Not all of them have it. There's about 6 interpreters at the school, and there's constantly another body there, again, in their personal classroom, right? And now they have to share their space. They have to, figure out how to maneuver around the classroom with all these 25+ kids, and then they have to figure out how to am I in the way, and oh my gosh, there's so many adaptations that these teachers are required to do. But you know what? Every single year at Fernbrook, every single year, has not failed me once. Those teachers are so willing to accommodate these deaf, hard of hearing students. Obviously, this is personal because I'm deaf, hard of hearing. Sorry. I think you said emotion, and I just stuck onto it too. But anyways, but I have to tell you, it's without hesitation, resistance, or pushback, those teachers have been inclusive, and they have been inviting to every single one of those members of the IEP team, myself, the speech language, OT, anybody who's on special ed, especially the parents, right? So, just wanted to take a few minutes of your time tonight to just acknowledge what great work's happening at Fernbrook. And, if there's ever an opportunity to recognize them, the extra mile that they've gone, I know that that recognition would be greatly appreciated, and it wouldn't be forgotten by those teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berghain. I'm not sure how we could better award those teachers than you just did tonight. Said, I'm not sure how we could do a better thing than you just did tonight,
Okay.
telling them about that.
So
Thank you very much.
I just wanted you to know that there's great work. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Next up, could Marshall Thompson please come up? Where's Marshall? Oh, there he is. Sorry.
That's a tough act to follow. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair Ostafi, members of the board, Superintendent McIntyre, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Marshall Thompson, and I'm a math teacher at Park Center Senior High, but I'm also a person who's led teacher negotiations for most of the last decade. Tonight, you will hopefully vote to ratify the teacher contract for 2019-2021. That agreement comes to you as a result of very hard work from many individuals, and I'd like to recognize some of them here tonight. First of all, along with myself, the teacher team consisted of my co-chair, Paul Terry, Tom Grieve, Kathy Hansen, and Tracy Hahn, along with President Kelly Wilson, and Education Minnesota field staff, Dewey Anderson. I've done this a long time, and this is probably the strongest, most open-minded group I've had the pleasure of working with. They give thoughtful consideration to each district interest and its impact on our students and teachers. I couldn't be prouder of our team's work and professionalism. I'd also like to offer gratitude and appreciation for the district team, which included Director Craig, Principals Scott Taylor, Michael Lehan, Stephanie Webster, Learning and Achievement Secondary Coordinator Jill Kind, Director of Labor Relations Joel Miltier, and Executive Director of Human Resources Laurel Anderson. I shouldn't forget Confidential Secretary Paige Messenbrink. She was so reliable, capturing our discussions and agreements and always making sure we were well prepared to move forward. She deserves a special thank you tonight. Two of our district's core values are that trust is essential to sustaining successful relationships and achieving results, and also that better decisions are made when diverse perspectives are intentionally included in a collaborative process. I can't stress to you how lucky we are in Osseo area schools that we take these values seriously and live by them every day. We worked extremely hard on some really big things. Collectively, both sides took on big challenges and vetted proposals thoroughly. What you have before you tonight only represents a small fraction of the work that we engaged in together. I believe strongly, personally, that using contractual provisions to attract and retain the very best employees is essential as we work to improve outcomes for students. This new contract will do a lot of good in that category. I couldn't be prouder of it, and I couldn't be prouder of the people that helped make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next, can I have Aaron Schindler please come up?
Good evening. My name is Erin Schindler, and this is my husband, Jay Schindler, and we do live in this school district. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight regarding the safety of our students at Maple Grove Middle School as well as our district policy. Our daughter, Kendall, was brutally assaulted on December 16th in the hallway of her school. Two girls attacked her from behind. They punched and kicked her in the head over 35 times. Meanwhile, 3 students were there ready to videotape and cheer on the assault. During the assault, Kendall begged them to stop multiple times, saying, "Please, I'm bleeding." They did not stop, even after 3 teachers surrounded them and demanded them to stop. Kendall knew of these girls, but she did not know them. The police did not uncover any correspondence between them prior to this event. We are here tonight because we don't want this to happen to another child. Just one of these hits or kicks to the head could have changed her life forever. On the night of the assault, we felt comforted as we read the school policy on physical assault and the violent behavior rule. We read the policy and thought, okay, this will be resolved. It seemed clear. They would be expelled and Kendall would not have to see them again. Well, to say the least, we were extremely disappointed to learn that these girls were given a 4-day suspension. And while they were on an extended holiday break, one posted a Snapchat story to brag about the assault. She posted the video of herself and her friend beating our daughter in slow motion from several different angles. To make matters worse, we found out that both girls have a history of aggression and bullying and that this is not an isolated case. There is a video of one of the girls assaulting another student at a football game last fall in a very similar situation. Because these students have a history of violence and poor behavior and they continue to earn privilege to be at school and have not faced serious consequences, we hold the district responsible for what happened to our daughter. Even though riding the bus is a privilege in our district, the administration informed us that they would allow one of these students back on her bus. When we objected, they proposed a plan to have the student sit behind the bus driver, and if she was to get out of her seat, the driver should be directed to call 911. So they acknowledge that the student is dangerous enough to put this plan in place, yet she is not dangerous enough to lose her privilege to ride this bus or attend this school.
30 seconds remaining.
At the last PACT meeting, I learned that the school survey results showed that 30% of the students reported that they don't feel safe at this school. If truly your mission statement is to provide a safe learning environment, we beg you to look into our situation and see what you can do to learn from it and create change. we are requesting the following action items. We request that these 2 students who attacked our daughter be expelled from the district. We do not understand what it takes to get expelled. Did she have to suffer a broken bone or a traumatic brain injury? Why are we waiting for the next child to be assaulted? We are asking you to reevaluate the policies in place. Are they vague and left open to interpretation, or are they clear and the administration of Maple Grove is not following them? And finally, we are asking you to listen to the community. We have quickly found out that we are not alone. This is not one isolated case. There are some very serious concerns about the environment at this school. We do not want to add our 3 children to the 5,000 children who live in your district who have already chosen to receive education outside of Osseo schools. In conclusion, I want you to understand that I am not here solely for my child, but for all the students of this school. I hope that this incident will instigate positive changes. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to your response to this very serious issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Schindler. Next, I'd like to call Heidi Segedi.
I'm Heidi Segedi, and I'm not used to being on this side of the microphone. I like to lead as more of a partner. I'm a parent in the district. I too have a student at Maple Grove Middle School. I'm used to standing in this position. I'm a trained advocate for my child who has autism and receives services in our district. I don't know how to advocate for my typical son, so bear with me. He too has been experiencing bullying at Maple Grove Middle School. He was being bullied during the fall, which turned into an assault, and guarantees that there would be no tolerance that he would have any issues in the future. Mind you, my son is 70 pounds, and the child who brutalized him is twice his size and weight. To date, I don't know that there has been any kind of consequence for that child, and I recognize that that wouldn't probably be shared with me anyway, but he still attends classes with my son, still antagonizes my son, still verbally harasses my son, and all I know is that they've contacted his mom. So I'm asking you the same thing. Please look into what is happening at our school. Put it under a microscope. I don't think anyone wants a circumstance or a situation where children don't feel safe. My son loved elementary school and now is at middle school and terrified and doesn't want to go and comes home saying that he wishes he was dead sometimes, which is absolutely the worst thing for a parent to hear. I'm a huge partner with this district. I work for this district as the chair of Special Ed Advisory Council, and I know we can do better because listening to that amazing teacher who shared the successes at Fernbrook, that's my background, and that's the things that I normally celebrate. And every school should be able to celebrate successes like that, and I don't currently think that there's a lot of that being celebrated at Maple Grove Middle for very obvious reasons. So I just want to say I know we can do better, and I think when you stop accepting excuses and you start having expectations, everyone succeeds and everyone wins. So I'm asking you to put that on that school and to put that on that administration, and more importantly, to let the students in that building know that they are safe and that they are accountable for their behavior. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Segedi. Next up, I would like to have Aaron Berghain come forward.
Hello, I'm Erin Berghain, and I have a son who's in Maple Grove Middle School as well. So I'm here because I'm concerned about the bus safety that we have going on. My son, ever since he started middle school, has ridden on a bus with students who are harassing students on a daily basis, swearing at them, pushing them out of seats. Just really, it's scary. And we have gone and talked to someone about this, and then the next day, my son and some of his other friends were harassed by these students who were doing this. So now, when I asked my son, how's it going on the bus? He says, it's fine. And I said, are you sure? And he goes, why would I tell you? Because nothing changes. Nothing gets done. So I'm not going to tell you anything. Doesn't matter. I went to a PACT meeting a few weeks ago, which is a great organization, but I was astonished by how many kids don't feel safe at our middle school. We pay a lot of money to be in Maple Grove, and a lot of people move to Maple Grove for the school district, and there shouldn't be this many problems, and I feel like it's mostly at the middle school level. However, there were also issues at the elementary school level as well. And I just think people need to be held more accountable for their behavior and their actions, because if you're not accountable, why are you going to stop? You know, if you go and beat someone up and then you get a couple of days suspension, why would you, what's a suspension? It's a vacation for kids, and then they come back and they do the same things. And it's a big concern for myself, a lot of my peers, and I just think that there's a lot of excuses, for why people act this way, or my hands are tied, or that's not my job. Whose job is it? Like, if it's not your job, what can we do, as a whole, as a district? What can we do to make it a safer place for our students? Because I don't want my son to go to school and get stomach aches and anxiety and not feel safe at the school. That's not what any student should go through. And, bullying happens all over the place, and bad behavior happens all over the place, but I also know that it should be held
30 seconds
accountable.
remaining.
So I just ask that you guys please really look into the buses, take into consideration what's going on, because to call 911, that's not an option. The bus driver has to drive to get our kids to school safely. They can't pull over and worry about something like that. So there needs to be some other safety precautions in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Berghain. We are approaching our time limit, but as I do have the authority, I am going to continue with some of these because this is important. We have 3 more, and I think we can do that in 10 minutes if we all stick to the timing. So next up, I'd like to call Ms. Julie Oman.
Thank you, Board, for having me. My name is Julie Oman. I have 2 girls at Maple Grove Middle School. One of them is a foster daughter who I've had since August, who comes from a very difficult background, and then one who was adopted at birth from the same kind of very difficult background. You'll be surprised to know I'm the mom of the child who y'all are so worried about and so concerned is going to kill your child in the hallways. I'm white. Don't be afraid. My daughters do not do things for no reason. They do respond when they are provoked. They have been through, as you have just spoken about, the child in the room who has been bullied and bullied and bullied and bullied all the time, and now he doesn't want to tell anybody because nothing happens. They've been that way their whole lives because of the color of their skin, and nothing happens. Coming to Maple Grove Middle School is not a big difference for them, but it has continued and continued. The particular child who I've heard is such an angel, I have stories that will rock your world regarding this child and my daughter from when they were like in 3rd grade or something like that at the park. So it's different. You don't know the other side of the story. My girls they have names. They don't need to be talked to like they are not even human, like that tall one, that stick girl, that short girl, when you know that what their name is, because you have known them for a very long time. They don't pull kids out of the bus and bully them and push kids and make them sit in other seats. Didn't happen. My kids didn't do it, but they've been blamed for it. And I think because of the color of their skin. At this point, I feel like everything is out of flipping control. I don't know where these kids, I don't know how these kids have learned and taught that they can make such comments, derogatory comments to kids who have autistic or who are autistic or have disabilities or are different color than them, who are richer than them or poorer than them or whatever. But for somewhere they learned how that it doesn't matter what they say, that they can just be mean and nobody cares. And it grates on those kids. And when you
30
have a
seconds
kid
remaining.
who has been as abused and has lived through more life than probably any of us in this room have, and she's 13, and you want to have her deal with that kind of ridicule on a constant basis, I'm sorry, but I think you might see a little bit of anger come out at some point, and it did. I'm very sorry for your daughter. I do not condone her behavior at all, and she knows
Time.
that is bad. But I don't know what was expected at the end of the day when she has continued to get that ridicule over and over and over, particularly from your daughter.
Ms. Elman, can we please keep it not personal
I'm
and
sorry.
direct it to the board? Thank you.
Yes, yes. Is my time up too?
Yeah. Were you wrapping up?
Yes, I just ask that, yes, we need to be keeping our kids safe, but we need to keep all of our kids safe, and that means not just physically, but emotionally. Words hurt just as bad as broken bones. Broken bones actually do heal. Words may not ever heal. They do.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Tamer Grady. What's that? Okay, there's one more, Ms. Colia Pringle. Colia?
So I am not from Osseo, and this is the first time I've been here. I'm a family advocate from the Minnesota Parent Union, and I represent mostly families of color, marginalized families, and I help them advocate for themselves. But I also I advocate alongside them. This is the first time I've been at Osseo School District, and to hear adults attack children as if, children coming from, children that have been traumatized or children that have been abused is somehow an excuse. No one asked to be here. I am just truly and utterly disgusted at how adults are sitting here talking about children, traumatized children, abused children. Not only that, Osseo has a suspension rate disparity problem in his district. I only have the numbers for 2017, but 24% of the children in this district are black, and they represent 80% of the suspensions. And instead of you guys looking at what's going on within your system, I know you guys are talking the talk, but obviously the numbers don't say you're walking the walk, and I'm sure once I get to talking to many families of color, the stories are also going to match the numbers. And to sit here and think that the district has no accountability, or that the white families in here with privilege don't have an accountability to teach their children not to be teasing black children to the point to where they get to the point of where they have no choice but to break out in anger, or they feel like they have no choice but to break out in anger. If nobody understands that, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing like being discriminated against because of your color, day in and day out, and there's nothing you can do about it because everybody around you is white. You're treated differently, and you notice it, the other kids notice it, so you don't say anything. You hold it in, and then you don't know what to do because you've already been used to traumatization and victimization, criminalization, and abuse, so your only response is to lash out because that's all you know. And instead of this community trying to wrap that child up and trying to figure out what is wrong with that kid, yeah, shake your head. You want to expel the child from a district from getting an education? It's a 13-year-old.
Please keep your attention up here, please. Direct it to the board. Thank you.
Whoever, it's a 13-year-old child. Remember that. 13 years old. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grady, did you want to speak?
Well, I've been up here before. It's on. I've been up here before talking about the safety issues in this district. Thank you. And I have taken my own kids out of the district because they don't feel safe. And I think that what we all need to do is take this opportunity to have a courageous conversation about what goes on in this district regarding race and diversity. 60% of Osseo district includes students of color. Students of color are Osseo district. White kids are our Osseo district. Disabled kids, immigrant kids, and my own children who are part of the LGBTQ community, they're included a part of that district. I think we all know here that we're all accountable as a community for making sure that all kids are safe. And you're right, it happens with words. It happens with fists. It happens with the adults in the room not having the support that they need in order to support all students. So instead of sitting around and pointing fingers at who's to blame here, we are all accountable to make this community safe for all kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grady. We've heard some very emotional issues tonight, and the board is very well aware of what has been going on, is engaged. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Superintendent McIntyre to address the issue briefly and let you know what's going on.
Yeah, thank you very much for everyone who came tonight. This is a hard topic, but I did want a chance to address it. And for all of you to be here tonight, this shows me how much you all care. And we have a common ground about taking care of all of our students. As superintendent, I'm also deeply concerned about all the issues that have been raised here. And I can assure you that we have a collective and common goal, and that's to work together to create safe school environments and positive school climates for all of our students to feel welcome and respected and safe every day. And I hope we share that same common goal. This is at the heart of our mission. I've only been here a few months, but I believe we have common agreement around our core values and that mission. And we must work effectively together to address challenging behavior that gets in the way of those goals, okay? We have the responsibility, and it is our job. I love that comment earlier. It is our job, it's my job, to ensure that we provide physical and psychological safety for all of our students and staff. And we will do what it takes to ensure that incidents that are unsafe do not happen in our schools. If people have not felt heard or supported, for that, we apologize. We need to ensure that there is community trust and strong communication and partnership in everything we do, and we're going to work hard to ensure that occurs. So moving forward, I want all of you to know and that I and my team are taking immediate actions to address the kinds of concerns that were raised here tonight around school safety and climate. So we're developing a plan that will support the efforts at this school and across the district. We'll be working on, and I've already started, soliciting feedback from parents and community so that we truly listen and fully understand the nature of the issues so that we can target our response and our support for those concerns and help prevent any future challenges from coming. So I've already met with a number of folks involved, and I want to reassure you that we're creating a process to allow us to have that conversation that's been recommended, to get at the underlying issues and feelings and create a space for an exchange of ideas that everyone can support. So to do that, we got to do this as a community and work on creating a positive school climate, and we're going to do this as quickly as we can and still do it with high quality and with impactful outcomes. So using the feedback that we're getting here, we'll continue to develop that. And along the way here as well, we're going to enter into a process to review our approved policies and procedures and protocols. We need to evaluate them. We need to review them. So we're going to undertake that action as well, and likely exploring the idea of some district-level work to not only support this school, but all of our schools, including district discipline committee and anti-bullying, anti-harassment efforts to improve on our prevention efforts along with consistent enforcement of our policies. We need to do a better job, continue to do a better job on providing training to our staff as well as our students on identifying those undercurrents, those nuances that lead to unwelcome and unsafe environments. We need to do a better job observing our students in the informal settings where these things can happen, and observe better how students treat each other. And like I said earlier, I come back to, we need to create an environment where all students feel safe and can show up every day. Whether or not they report it, they feel safe. So these efforts, I hope, will complement the other efforts we've had in place in the past, and I'm going to need your help and everyone's input to help make all of our schools a safer place. So I appreciate you all being here again tonight and sharing your concerns, and I want to reassure you we've already started working on them. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McIntyre. And your next item on the agenda is your superintendent report. So,
okay, transition. Thank you, everyone. And I see we have some students in the audience tonight too, so thank you, students, for being here, probably a part of some classes you're taking. As a regular part of our my student superintendent's report, we do share points of pride in our system. And points of pride celebrate our students and staff and community members who are contributing to the accomplishments of our mission. And we alluded to that mission earlier, which is to inspire and prepare all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. So I've asked various cabinet members to share with you some recent points of pride, and then I'll follow up with some additional items.
Under the Achieving Dreams category, 3 Osseo area schools teachers are among 134 educators statewide to be nominated for the 2020 Minnesota Teacher of the Year Award. 2 nominees came from Birch Grove Elementary School for the Arts, art teacher Corey Brown and 4th grade teacher Jan Ratter. The 3rd nominee, Jessica Sparell, is a 4th grade teacher at Fernbrook Elementary. In the weeks ahead, a panel of community leaders will name a group of semifinalists and finalists. The 2020 Minnesota Teacher of the Year will be announced on May 3rd.
Maple Grove Senior High's Emma Trebtoski was featured as a CCX News Standout student in December. Emma is passionate about special education and spends time working with her peers at Maple Grove who are in the special education program. She hopes to become a special education teacher in the future. On January 7th, a grand opening ceremony was held at the Brooklyn Park Sports Dome at Park Center Senior High. This dome is evidence of a strong partnership between the City of Brooklyn Park and Osseo area schools, and will increase access to recreational opportunities for youth and adults throughout the community.
The strong partnership between Park Brook Elementary and Three Rivers Park District keeps making headlines. Earlier this month, staff from both organizations accepted the Tommy Johnson Award of Excellence from the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association in recognition of their collaborative work to redesign the play area at French Regional Park. Many Park Brook scholars from Renee Pelton's 2015-16 third grade class served on the KID task force and were involved with the redesign of this play area. In the area of contributing to community, twice a month, students from Park Center Senior High's new Math Buddies group travel to Woodland Elementary to work on a fun math activities with first graders. In addition to boosting confidence and motivation in their younger peers, these Park Center scholars are learning how to be compassionate leaders, role models, and possible future educators. Students at Northview Middle School recently contributed to their community by collecting more than 1,000 items during a school-wide food drive last month.
In the category of lifelong learning, students at Park Brook Elementary focus on the importance of living healthy, active lifestyles, making it the perfect location for the Minnesota Wild to host a Face Off for Fitness event earlier this month. Members of the Wild organization were on hand to promote healthy eating and fitness, and also donate floor hockey equipment that students will use in Phi Ed classes. At this event, Representative Dean Phillips put his own hockey skills to the test and talked to students about the role of congresspeople in U.S. government.
Our final category is mission-driven employees. Governor Tim Walz has proclaimed this week, January 27th through 31st, as Paraprofessional Recognition Week in Minnesota. In Osseo area schools, we're grateful for our dedicated educational support professionals who help achieve our mission for all students. Thank you, ESPs. You can read more points of pride on our website, district279.org.
Okay, just a couple additional items I'd like to share in the superintendent's report. I think some of our board members might touch on this as well, but I wanted to update everyone on the work that's been happening with in our district regarding our facilities through our Building a Better Future process. Recently, at our January 14th work session, we had our 4 work groups that are investigating and studying enrollment and capacity, instructional programs, safety and security, and student activities. And those findings were shared at the work session, and that work's now been handed over to our oversight task force that is now taking those findings. We'll look at funding options and develop and make final recommendation to me as superintendent in the May-April window, somewhere in early spring, I should say. So that in turn, I will bring back to the school board a recommendation or recommendations for input and direction. So that work is continuing. Also regarding our strategic planning process, I've been giving regular updates on that work this year as we're developing a new district-wide strategic plan. Yesterday, we had a session with about 130 staff. We had about 80 teachers and 50 other staff across the district participate in a story wall and life cycle session to really work at looking at our identified and honored events that occurred in our district's history and trends that have shaped the district's development up to this point. And so next month, we'll examine current context of our work, culture, and organization as we continue to work forward to developing a new plan. So these context settings will really help us identify strengths and areas of improvement. And then we are, in February, launching approximately 20 different family, community, student, and staff stakeholder engagement sessions. And more details will be coming on that, but we'll be seeking input from parents, guardians, students, and staff, really to get a look at what the desired daily experience is in our schools. And those, again, sessions will happen in February, and we'll have those results later in the early spring. I just want to echo something mentioned earlier. It is Paraeducator Week, or our educational service professionals. And we have an amazing group of ESPs in our district working in multiple settings, providing support to instruction, student activities, individual students, as well as just numerous other tasks in our district that contribute to our educational success. The support and the services of our ESPs are really integral to our achievement. And they're critical to our role of educating each and every student. And I would just want to recognize that important role they have in our system and the contributions that they continue to make every day in our Osseo area schools. So I'm going to add to that comment earlier and have a great appreciation week for our ESPs. With that, that concludes my superintendent report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent McIntyre. Our next agenda item are the school board reports, and we'll start with Director Craig. Do you have a committee report or update?
Not tonight.
Thank you. Director Dawson-Walton, do you have a report or update?
I don't have a report or update, but I do want to remind everyone in the audience and everyone watching that February 11th at 5:15, we do have a listening session. We started those this year. As many of you witnessed today, the public comment, there's not a lot of interaction and conversation, so we started listening sessions this year so we could really have a dialogue with our community, families, students can come, really open it up to have the board will all be here, and so be there. And it's at Park Center at 5:15, February 11th, so I'd invite any of you to come and have a conversation with us.
Thank you, Director Dawson-Walton. Director Simons.
Yes, the Enrollment and Capacity Management Advisory Committee, ECMAC, met yesterday. The ECMAC work to date has been focused on capacity issues where we are approaching overcapacity or are at overcapacity. Last night, we began the work to look at areas of the district where we have undercapacity. With that, we also learned about other facility needs in community education and special education. So again, when we think about the role of ECMAC, it's really to look at our entire district end-to-end capacity use and provide observations and recommendations to district administration. So we looked at both of those, and those were the key items.
Yep. Thank you, Director Simons. Director Mosqueda-Jones, do you have an update?
I do. The Northwest Suburban Integration School District met on January 15th for their organizational meeting, which is where chair, vice chair, et cetera, and committees all get decided. And Nicole Hayes from Anoka Hennepin is the new chair, and Jackie Mosqueda-Jones from Osseo is the new vice chair. We looked over policies. We did an update on our strategic plan, and then we got to see the update on enrollment for magnet schools. And I just want to put a plug in for Zanewood Community STEAM School. It is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. It's a fairly new initiative. I don't think people have heard a lot about it, but it's receiving some great reviews right away, so I want to encourage you to look into that area. The other update I wanted to give is that several of us were able to go to the Minnesota School Board Association Leadership Conference on January 16th and 17th. Director Dawson Walton was there, Director Simons, myself, and Director Douglas were there. And we got some very exciting ideas that we're bringing back on different areas of student involvement and equity and diversity and all sorts of different leadership areas. So we're very excited about that going forward.
Thank you. Director Douglas.
I do. I was actually going to bring up MSBA, so Jackie, thanks for covering that. It was a really great opportunity for us and also our Superintendent Corey McIntyre to gain some new insights into ways that we can improve our school district.
Oh yeah, he was there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Also, I am on the DPAC committee, and we did meet, but I didn't attend because we had our dome opening that night, and I missed it. So I apologize for that. I don't have an update for that, but we are meeting again next week, so I will have an update at our next meeting. Also, on 287, which is our intermediate school district, or I'm sorry, yes, I did say that right. Okay, thank you. Where it's kind of the top tier of where highest need students attend. I serve on that board, and we've met twice since our last board meeting here. We had our organizational meeting. We welcomed 2 new members, Sam Sant from Robbinsdale and Ruthie Dallas from Brooklyn Center. So we're really excited to have 2 new members on our board. There are 11 school districts that come together, and we did our year-end audit report, which you'll be happy to hear. We had clean findings, so that was excellent news. The report acknowledged that the staff is very knowledgeable, the board is well-informed, and operates fiscally responsibly. Expenditures are below, revenue, thank you. I didn't finish my sentence when I wrote my notes. And we have a stable financial position, which is a really excellent place to be, especially because you may or may not be aware that special ed is underfunded. And so it can be difficult to manage those finances, especially because we have multiple revenue streams and multiple special ed programs at 287. So it's really, really great to hear that we're financially stable over there. Our superintendent acknowledged her Uber goal, which is kind of and above and beyond what the school board's goals are. She also sets her goals, which is pretty cool. And hers are to clearly identify strategic priorities and gain coherence for all staff of the new strategic plan. And then on our other meeting, we had some equity leaders from the community come and speak, which was really great. And then my favorite portion, which was where we get to hear about the students' success stories. We got to hear from 2 students who are breaking down barriers in really big ways. We had a student who came here when he was 12 from Uganda, who was unable to speak English when he first arrived, and really, really struggled. He has graduated high school on time and with college credit in English. So it's a huge accomplishment for him, and he's going to college. He's the first in his family to do that. So we're really excited about him, and he was a part of our NEL program, which is like a specific thing, and he wants to be the next Denzel Washington. So we're excited to see where that goes. We hope he comes back and tells us if he did. And then also Holly is from Wayzata, and she is a young girl aspiring to be an auto mechanic and taking part in that program. And she just got a full scholarship to Dunwoody because of her skill and excellence. So we're really excited about that, especially because getting women into those fields can be challenging. So that's about it.
Chair, I have one more thing. The 279 Foundation did not meet, but Brian, if you could give a quick little plug for the game night, I would appreciate that.
Thank you. So the District 279 Foundation does an annual gala, and this year it's Friday, February 7th at the Northwest Marriott. The theme this year is a game night out. You can contact the central office here, and they'll forward you to someone from the foundation, or go on the website, district279foundation.org. And we also will have next Monday, if you can't attend, but you like to bid on silent auction items, that will go live online for the whole week too, so you don't have to be in attendance to win items while making a contribution for classroom grants. Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome for putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
And the
no
best
problem.
part is, you do not need to wear formal wear.
Yes.
I'm really excited about that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director Douglas and Director Mosqueda-Jones. I have a brief report. I was happy to see that the superintendent, the majority of the board, leadership from Osseo High School, and many of their students were able to attend the MLK breakfast last Monday. It was the 30th annual. It was a great event, and it was good to see everybody be able to attend and support that effort. So thank you for that. Over the last couple weeks, the board on their own and then meeting as a group in closed session put together feedback for the mid-year evaluation for Superintendent McIntyre. We then discussed that, pulled all the items together, and presented that. I sat down and presented that with Superintendent McIntyre and discussed the evaluation. So,
And he's here tonight, so that's good.
thank you very much. Our presentation this evening is the Minnesota Student Survey results. And leading the presentation are Kate Emmons, Director of Student Services, Jill Lene, Assistant Director of Student Services, and Tom Watkins, Data and Assessment Coordinator. Team, welcome. And Assistant Superintendent Flisk.
So good evening, Chair Ostafi.
Good evening.
Superintendent McIntyre, board members, cabinet, and community. This evening, the team will briefly share with you the results of the Minnesota Student Survey for 2019. And here, as always, we have our mission. So our mission is to inspire and prepare all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. So, as Chair Ostafi said, our presenters here tonight are Kate Emmons, Director of Student Services, Jill Lene, who is the Assistant Director of Student Services, and Tom Watkins, Coordinator for Learning and Achievement, and of course myself, Stephen Flisk, Assistant Superintendent. So as you see, the outcomes for this evening, we are going to provide hopefully some background on the Minnesota Student Survey, also high-level results from the 2019 survey, and some next steps regarding the survey analysis that's really ongoing right now. Right now, because the survey is administered every 3 years, we felt a brief overview might be helpful in grounding our presentation tonight. As the survey results are comprehensive, the presentation will be high level, due to our limited time. However, we hope the areas that we have selected to share this evening will help illustrate what our students are saying and feeling and how they report acting. Finally, we'll spend some time sharing how we are currently utilizing the survey results, as well as our plans for an even deeper dive into the data, especially as it relates to our racial subgroups. Tom Watkins will share more about this in the presentation as we move forward. So I think, as you're aware, the survey is a collaboration between local schools and 4 state agencies: the Minnesota Department of Education, Health, Human Services, and Public Safety. The state agencies developed the survey. They develop the survey content and monitor the data quality and analyze and report the results. And of course, the schools administer the survey to our students. And so, as you may note, there was a shift in the grade surveys surveyed in 2013, so they're currently now grades 5, 8, 9, and 11. Osseo area schools has participated since the inception in 1989, and so that makes it one of the longest running voluntary youth surveys in the nation. Districts elect to participate. It's a school-based survey and anonymous. So no names or identifying codes or numbers are collected on students, or the survey answers cannot be traced to an individual. Students can decline to take the survey. If they do take the survey, students can skip any question or stop at any point. A little bit more about the survey again. So as you can see, it's fairly comprehensive. More than 170,000 students were surveyed statewide this year. As I had mentioned, districts volunteer to participate, and so on average, it's about 81% participation. Schools administer during January through May, and I believe our window was February 5th through the 28th this year, past year, 2019. And as you can see, survey is all-encompassing in terms of demographics, student climate, bullying, out-of-school activities, health, nutrition, emotional and mental health relationships, substance use, and sexual behaviors. And I apologize, there is an error on there. It's only 9th and 11th grade students who answer the questions on sexual behavior. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Kate, who will highlight the importance of the survey participation, not only from the state standpoint, but also really from Osseo. Kate?
Good evening. So why is the Minnesota Student Survey important? Why do we take time out of our educational day to allow students to do this? One is it's a consistent source of statewide data. So, and it's, as you heard, from 1989 to now, it's one of the longest running sources of data, so we can see trends over time with our youth. And it's on the health and the well-being of youth, and that's a complete reason that we take the Minnesota Student Survey. This data informs our program planning and our grant proposals. Once the information comes out, we start getting calls from our partner agencies if we will release our data to them, because they then use this to inform their program planning to support our students and to get grants that support the students in our schools as well. For example, Lee Carlson is one of agencies that we have co-located mental health, and they got a fabulous grant, and now any student in any of our schools who needs that service is able to receive that service inside of our schools. State agencies use this result to monitor trends, assess disparities, and obtain federal and state funding. So they use it to get a lot of the grants that have also helped us in our system. Whenever they have a partnership, they reach out to Osseo, among other districts. I just am always rooting for Osseo, so that, that we can do projects, and they fund the work in our schools. So. And the presentation focus, it's streamlined for board presentation. There is a ton of information in this, as I can see some of you nodding that you're familiar with that. Ton of information. There's a lot of information available that Tom is going to take you over very high levels, Tom Watkins, and then it's also available on the MDE website.
this presentation tonight, so we're focusing on a subset of questions on which the greater differences were observed between our district and our state, because it's interesting information. Not that others isn't, but it's interesting. So we're focusing on the questions that are aligned with our priority work as well. There's a lot of questions that align to a lot of goals. We're focusing tonight on things that are going to be of interest to us because of our priority work and the local and national conversations. You may be aware some of those local and national conversations are happening through the Star Tribune articles. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom Watkins, who will take you through some of that fascinating information.
These are the categories for the charts that have been included in the presentation. The category for the slide will appear in the lower left-hand corner of the slide for all the charts, and I'll provide a brief summary as I'm going through the charts, and then after presenting the charts, I'll offer some highlights and challenges. You can see in the lower left-hand corner that we're starting out with college and career category. There are 3 slides that are in this category. On this slide, female students were more likely than males to plan to go to a 4-year college, and Osseo students are more likely than their statewide peers to plan to go to a 4-year college. Similarly, females were more likely than males to report that for course grades, they received mostly A's, and Osseo students were more likely than their statewide peers to indicate that they received mostly A's. Taken together, these 2 slides match up with other district and state gender gaps, with females outperforming males in high school grades, high school graduation, college enrollment, and college graduation rates. Osseo students were less likely than their statewide peers to indicate that an adult helped them think about college or training after high school. This is the first of 4 slides in the school safety category. When we ask if students felt safe at school and combined student responses of agree and strongly agree, Osseo's percentage was very close to the statewide average, and this average was stable from 2013 to 2016, but then decreased in 2019. As we break down the 2019 data by grade and gender, we find that most grade levels were at or near statewide averages, but Osseo 8th graders' perceptions of safety at school were below their statewide peers. If we look at student perceptions of safety going to and from school, and again combine agree and strongly agree, Osseo's percentages were at or near state averages. Drilling into the 2019 data by grade and gender, we find again that most grade levels were at or near the statewide averages, but Osseo 8th graders' perceptions of safety going to and from school were below their statewide peers. In terms of safety outside of school, when we ask if students feel safe in their neighborhood, and again combine the percent who agree and strongly agree, Osseo students were at a comparable level as the state. Similarly, Osseo students were comparable to their statewide peers in their perceptions of safety at home. Turning to the category of mental health and exercise, this is the first of 6 slides. For all but one of these grade by gender groups, Osseo students were less likely than their statewide peers to report 5 or more days with 60 minutes or more of physical activity in the past week. There's been an increase in long-term mental health or emotional problems reported by students in Osseo and statewide over the past 6 years, but with Osseo students remaining below their statewide peers. Breaking this down by grade and gender for 2019, females were more likely to report long-term mental health or emotional problems than males. Females were also more likely than males to report feeling down, depressed, or hopeless in the past 2 weeks, with Osseo females at a higher level than their statewide peers. 2019 was the first year in which the Minnesota Student Survey asked students about adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. These are 9 questions about traumatic experiences. For all but one of the student groups, Osseo students were less likely than statewide peers to report one or more adverse childhood experiences. The only exception was 9th grade males. In Osseo and statewide, female students were more likely than males to report that they seriously considered attempting suicide at least once. This is different from data for this age group from the National Institute of Mental Health, which indicates that males were at least 3 times as likely as females to actually commit suicide. This next section is about bullying. Osseo students at each grade level and gender group were more likely than their statewide peers to report that they've been harassed or bullied because of their race or ethnicity. Female students in Osseo were less likely than their statewide peers to report that they had been cyberbullied through text messages or social media in the last 30 days. Overall, females were more likely than males to report cyberbullying. Osseo students were less likely than statewide peers to report that other students had spread mean rumors or lies about them. Female students were again more likely than males to indicate this on the survey. The last section of the chart is on substance use. Osseo students were less likely than the state average to report use of alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs in the past year. Osseo students were also less likely than their statewide peers to report vaping or use of e-cigarettes. At 9th grade and 11th grade, Osseo students were more likely than statewide peers to indicate that parents feel it would be very wrong to vape or use e-cigarettes. This pattern was reversed at 8th grade. So this is the first of 2 slides of highlights. Females and Osseo students were more likely to say that they were receiving A's and are planning on going to a 4-year college. High school males in Osseo were feeling safer at school and on their way to and from school than their statewide peers. And compared to statewide peers, Osseo students were less likely to report long-term mental health concerns and adverse childhood experiences, and were less likely to have considered suicide. We also have these reasons to celebrate. Osseo female students were less likely to be cyberbullied than their statewide peers. And Osseo students overall reported fewer concerns about mean rumors or lies being spread about them, vaping, use and awareness, and about substance use and awareness. In terms of challenges we're facing, males were less likely than females to indicate that they were receiving A's and planning on 4-year college. And this is reflective of a persisting gender gap in high school course grades, high school graduation, college enrollment, and college graduation. Osseo students were less likely than statewide peers to say that they received help in thinking about college or finding a career-focused field experience. And Osseo students felt less safe at school in 2019 than in previous years, and female students felt less safe at school than male students did. Also, 8th graders in our district also felt less safe on their way to and from school than statewide peers. Some other challenges were in the areas of 5 or more days with 6 or more minutes of physical activity, long-term mental health concerns, students feeling depressed, down, or hopeless, and harassment or bullying because of race or ethnicity. We presented 21 charts here, but there's much more Minnesota Student Survey data to review. 2 of our next steps will be to use district dashboards provided by the Center for Applied Research and Educational Improvement, but also analyses for racial and other student groups using data from a small contract we have with the University of Minnesota. And I will pass it on to Jill.
Good evening. So what are we doing with all this data? Currently, we have shared the state, district, and site-level information with all leaders, and they're going to be bringing that back to their teams to kind of look for what are areas of strengths that we can continue to build on, and also
areas that we might need to pay a little more attention and focus to. Other departments that are working with this data, risk management is really looking into the safety component and the SRO component, school resource officers. Soon, we'll be presenting this information to our school counselors, to our school social workers, to our school psychologists, so they can really see what's going on at the individual level at their building, and so they can kind of start setting some goals around that as well. We will also share this information with our student assistance counselors who work with our chemical health issues. And then finally, we'll be sharing this with our schooling mental health providers so they can kind of see the mental health reports from each site level. And then we're going to end in district resources. So all of these people that you see listed on this screen are all people that are helping our kids on a daily basis in the schools, from helping kids that are addicted, helping kids that have mental health issues, PBIS, building school culture and climate. And so we have a lot of good things going on that are helping our kids be social and emotionally well.
So as we warned, it's brief and high level. So at this point, we'd like to open up to questions for anyone from the board, from the team.
So let's start on my right, and because you had your hand up already, I didn't see that. So, and then we'll continue on through. So, Director Douglas.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for all this information, and I know that it is so much deeper than this. But I just wanted to, Jill, actually I had a question for Jill.
Sure.
Sorry. You mentioned looking at our school resource officers and how they play that role. And I was curious if we have looked at how, or if you're considering looking at how we allocate school resource officers, or if school resource officers are the best person to have in that position. In 287, one thing that we've done is we've worked with our local police departments and pulled all school resource officers out of schools and instead brought in leaders, community leaders who are staff now, but they are people who look like and are living in the communities that these kids are from. And the incidences and de-escalation it's had a really tremendous impact in a really positive way. And so I was just curious if there has been any talk or consideration about that, because such a high number of our students have fear of people in uniform.
Yep. I believe that is something that Troy Streifels is looking into along with Dave Mordock. So they will be able to answer that question much better than I could.
All right, thank you.
I think Corey wanted to address something.
Sorry, okay.
Yes, definitely. And so in the conversation with Dave Mordock as well, they're taking the survey information that they have. They're meeting, in fact, with the SROs and sharing it. So you can see, you get questions about, do the students want the SROs there? I know a lot of districts are looking at that. Minneapolis was one. I think St. Paul as well, looking at that data. And just how comfortable students are in approaching those officers. So right now, I believe that's where the conversation is.
Sure.
But I understand that is part of the continuous improvement process. I'm sure that they're going to be looking at all aspects of it. But this data is a good data point for them, and to share with the police officers as well for program improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mosqueda-Jones.
As I recall in looking through the data, which for everyone who's listening, you can go on the Minnesota Department of Education website and put in Minnesota school student survey, and you can aggregate the data by, or desegregate the data by race, gender, grade level, all that jazz. I think I saw that there were questions about SROs. Okay. So my question actually is that was just a little FYI. My question is, when will we get the segregated data?
For
by race or by different groups.
Well, I'm going to actually invite Tom to talk up, because I think that's part of some of the next steps that we're doing with that
Yeah,
partnership
yeah.
with Carrie. Yeah.
Send me the research geek, thanks.
Yes, we do have some racially disaggregated data that's available to us and that we can make available to you. We can provide that as early as this week. You know, if we need to provide more, we'll just respond to what your needs are.
And you're getting that just from the website and pulling it?
No,
or
we have a file.
Is there a better
So
source?
we can actually, we can request a file. As a
Okay.
school district, we can request a file from the MDE, from Minnesota Department of Education.
Cool.
And so then that enables us to just be a little more efficient about how we manage that data.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's why we wanted the additional analysis from the University of Minnesota, so we get that objective look at that, because we've been working so hard at looking at our breakdowns.
Mhm.
And when you go on the website, there's some inefficiencies on sorting through that. We wanted, you've probably experienced that, so we wanted to make sure we were really solid on our findings and the analysis that'll help us in our planning moving forward.
And yeah, the partnership with University of Minnesota allows us to look at the developmental scales. So maybe you're familiar with the Search Institute and some of the developmental assets, and just allows us to look at those scales and how they're reported, which just is a little bit richer in terms of the information that we can provide for various student groups.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that.
All right, thank you. Looking at the website, Minnesota, again, you can go to education.mn.gov and then look for Minnesota MDE and Minnesota Student Survey. There are some tools to look through it, but it is, as you said, it's very difficult. I know Director Simons has been attempting to go through it and took an hour and a half just to get data on one of the questions. So there's a lot of things we do want to disaggregate, and I thank you for, following up with Minnesota, University of Minnesota.
One thing that I just would add that that is also available in terms of the Minnesota Student Survey data is on the report card itself. So on the MDE website, on the report card, you can look at engagement and safety. There's a section called engagement and safety, and then you can drill into that and look at results. For a lot of questions, I think it's maybe 10 or 12 questions, which is just a little slice of the overall data that's in there, but at least that's easier to manage and work with, and you can see the state comparisons, district, and even school results if you have a large enough school.
And if I can just add on to that, I appreciate you bringing that up. This is our first time we can do a comparison from previous data because of the change in the survey. So in 2016, it was the new baseline. So it's been a while since we've been able to have some comparison. So we're being very deliberate about making sure we get that right. But I just wanted to point out a couple things here. We heard some very real concerning things earlier tonight, and there's some themes in here that we look at multiple pieces of data that'll help us address those concerns, whether it's bullying and harassment, mental health, or students just feeling safe at school. So when we get these multiple elements, that helps us intervene and take action. And so, it's timely, I guess, in some way, but, we heard some personal experiences with this, and now we're seeing some things that we need to address that are more systemic, and thus the efforts that I talked about earlier with looking at our district-wide efforts in every school around those themes. So I really just need to point out, it's one more piece of information that we can use to do better, right?
And just underscoring that what the superintendent shared is, when we did meet with the principals, we pushed them hard to really take this back and work with their teams and really dig into this information because it is so rich. So we're going to expect to get many questions and really try and figure out how to best support them as they dig into that with their teams.
Chair Staffy, can I
Yeah.
ask another question?
Let's wrap it around, and then we'll come back to you. Director Simons.
Yeah, so on that note, you guys mentioned that we do expect action to be taken on this at the site level. In the past, so every time this is completed, do we have that same expectation? And is it, we want to push them to do something with it, or is it actually in their site plans where there's accountability back?
Yeah, I think that's part of the ongoing conversations that we're having in terms of really understanding how to best use the data. Director Simons, I think as they're digging into it and as we, as the assistant superintendents and everyone are supporting them, we expect to see this information show up in a number of different ways. Some of which, as we're having conversations with those leaders, like mid-year conversations, beginning of the year, and would fully expect to see elements of this show up in their school improvement planning moving forward. So we're getting more comfortable with the information, trying to figure out how best to support and use that information, and I would fully expect that that would grow into that.
Okay, thank you. In 2016, was that the same approach, or is this a different approach?
I don't believe so. I think it was shared. Do you have any context? Unfortunately, I wasn't.
Okay, that's okay, that's okay.
2016? You want to speak to that? Okay.
To my knowledge, with the 2016 data, that was something where there's tables that the MDE and the agencies that are producing the survey will actually develop. They'll publish and make those available. Those were distributed to the schools, so they got a, maybe a 25, 30-page document that had all of the tables for all the results. It's just a little bit difficult to figure out how to make sense of that. Is 27% good or bad, And so that's the thing that's really new this year, is that we've tried to take much more of a hands-on approach with the data and provide reference data for them so they can say, here's where you are, here's the district level, here's the state. So it's a little more contextualized. So yeah, I think this is at least in the time that I've been in Osseo, this is the most comprehensive handling of the Minnesota Student Survey data that we've ever had.
Okay, that's good to know, since this board has had a high sense of urgency to tie information to planning into a change in results. Yes. There'll just be a lot more questions that we all have, and putting it into more context, like how long have some of these issues persisted, will be important for us to understand, so we know how deep some of these concerns may go, and how much change is going to be necessary. I'll just ask one more to kind of keep going. When we look at the percentages and we extrapolate that to the number of students, it really is concerning, especially when we're talking about near 50% of students talking about having depression in the past 2 weeks or having suicidal thoughts. That's 10,000 kids. That's really alarming. Or when we think about 20 and 30% of kids saying that they're bullied for different reasons, and I did dig into some of that data, whether it's appearance, size, weight, and racial considerations. That's 4,000 students, that's 6,000 students. If you extrapolate it out, when it's 30% of our kids saying that, or 20% of our kids saying that. So I would just encourage us to continue to remember that, large numbers of students that we're talking about this is affecting, and percentages might be better than the state, but it's not okay for us.
So I'd like to add to that, because we also crosswalk this with our district student surveys and other survey data, and really could look at this holistically. And this, I couldn't agree with you more. So to get a full picture, we also collected internal data. We can crosswalk that, and as we get a better picture and turn this into information, as you're suggesting, then it turns into potential strategic priorities for us and how we want to address those from a targeted standpoint. So you're spot on with how do we take this and turn it into action.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Director Dawson-Walton.
Yeah, I've made this comment before, but how much data do we need? We keep, all we do is look at data, and, we talk about having courageous conversations, and I'm really ready to have some courageous actions. We've heard, Corey, I was gonna say the same thing. We've heard from families tonight who came and were very vulnerable, sharing their personal stories, and from many different perspectives. And this is not the first incident that this has happened. It's almost a straw that broke the camel's back. We have some serious work to do in our district. And so when I look at this, and there is no disaggregation around sociodemographics, it's just alarming to me, because I don't see how we can move forward if we're not addressing the elephant in the room. And I think we have these grandiose visions for a strategic planning process, but I don't know how, without bringing this all together, we're gonna really get anywhere. And you can't get any more real than parents, giving real life stories and that anecdotal information, because data doesn't really mean anything, and you can interpret it any way you want. But when you start to have stories of of people and and children in their lives. I mean, our children are our most precious assets. And so I guess I just would, again, have a call to action that, okay, we're not surprised. We hear this data all the time. We know mental health needs are through the roof right now. I've talked to the counselors at all of our schools. We know bullying is an issue at our schools. So I guess I'm just, it's really to our colleagues up here and our community. I mean, parents that are here now, we need you. We need you to be involved. We are not going to be able to move the dial alone. And so I just think that we need to unify our district. We need to address our issues head on and not be afraid of it. And I mean, I believe that we can all do it together. So I know it's like my little speech all the time, but I can't even say it enough, because I don't think the data alone, it's not doing anything. We're still in the same spot we have been in for years and years and years. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Director Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is around policy and procedure. So when these, I understand there's no individual students identifying information with these, which is great. My question is, and I also understand that each student has a choice of whether or not they want to take the test or the survey. And also, if there's a question they're not comfortable answering, they can skip that question. I guess my question is around, what are parents able to do? They're able to opt out. At what point in the school year are they able to do that? Where are the forms? Are they readily available? Could you give me an idea?
There is an opt-out process that the state, sets a template for that, and then Jill managed that this year.
Yep.
Last year.
Yep. So there is a letter that goes out to all families at those grade levels. And it's also translated in our 4 most populous languages. And then parents have the choice if they want their student not to take the survey. They just send it into our office, and then we alert the school right away to make sure that that student is not given the survey.
It's on the website. And is there a date or a deadline at the beginning of the year? I thought maybe I saw at the beginning of the year that has to be submitted before.
Yep, there was a deadline. Yep.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what the date was,
That's okay.
but there was a deadline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Douglas, you still remember your question?
Yeah, barely. Actually, both Tanya and Kelsey really covered what I wanted to say, so I don't really think I have anything else to say, so thank you, ladies.
Okay, thank you. And you had mentioned, this goes back 30 years, but we did have that switch. It seems that not too much of the data really changes between 8th and 9th and, possibly 11th or 12th. Is there things that we can look at on a larger temporal basis to say, over time, things have really gone up, or it's gone up and come down, and the number we're at today is actually a lot better than we were 30 years ago? I don't know that, but it seems that it's pretty similar between grades.
We can certainly explore some of those longer-term trends. That's not something that we have looked at so far, but we can certainly take a look at that if that's something the board would like.
I mean, I'm sure there's some questions that are different, like vaping didn't exist.
Right.
But did most of the questions stay the same? Safe at home, safe at school, safe on a bus, and everything else? Were those things?
I think there would be a core group of questions that, yes, would probably be there for the duration, but they do change a lot of questions each administration.
No, I'd be interested to see how far back we can track what we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the team. Appreciate it. The next agenda item is the consent agenda. Give everybody a break. I want to thank everybody who stayed with us so far, especially the students who had to be here.
They have to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
For school.
Give everybody a break here. Okay, next up is consent agenda. Board members, are there any items that you would like to remove for separate consideration from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor to approve the consent agenda? Well, let's go. Is there any discussion? And on the consent agenda, again, we have minutes, we have financial reports, we have acceptance of grants, personnel changes, field trips, fundraisers, the long-term facility maintenance plan, and other resolutions. So all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We have a couple action items tonight. The first action item on tonight's agenda is the recommendation for approval of the agreement on the terms and conditions of employment between the Independent School District 279 School Board and our teachers from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, through June 30th, 2021. Ms. Anderson.
Good evening, Chair Osseo, board members, and Superintendent McIntyre. On the agenda this evening for school board action is a recommendation for approval of the terms and conditions for teachers effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2021. The teachers group consists of 1,635 amazing employees comprised of educators, licensed, working every day so very hard to provide educational services and support to our students. The new agreement contains language changes that reflect current district practices as well as additional provisions that serve to support our district mission and strategic priorities. As Marshall mentioned, we did some salary changes made in year 2 to reflect our mutual interests of our efforts to attract, retain, and recruit quality teachers. School board members have had the opportunity to review the proposed changes to the provisions contained in the terms and conditions, to ask questions and to dialogue about the new provisions, and to consider financial implications. Specific details regarding the agreed upon changes are outlined in the memo that's attached to the board packet for the meeting tonight. The new contract provisions fall within the parameters set by the school board for the 2019-2021 contract term, and it's the superintendent and my recommendation that you approve the teacher contract presented to you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is there a motion to approve the terms and conditions of the employment between the Independent School District 279 School Board and teachers effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2021?
So moved.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
The other one seconded.
Well, there you go. There's a second. Is there any discussion regarding this contract?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank both of our teams and everyone involved in the process. Thank you, Marshall, for the shout out. I really didn't deserve it. I wasn't there for much, but I know that our teams worked hard, and they worked over the summer too. That's usually their time off. So thank you for your dedication and commitment, and for everybody on both sides. So thank you.
All right. Directors, any other comment?
I would like to make a comment. I just want to thank the teachers group for your hard work. I want to thank all the teachers in our district for how hard they work. In light of all the things that were discussed today, I just want to share a little personal moment. I am also a teacher and was at my staff meeting before this. And the quote that we centered our staff meeting around was by James Baldwin. And that quote is, "For these are all our children. We all profit by or pay for whatever they become." And I truly believe that the teachers of Osseo and the teachers with whom I work with take on our students as their own children, and will treat them like that. And it is my honor to be on the school board and support such wonderful teachers. So I want to thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other? And I just want to comment, I want to thank everyone involved. We have a very professional staff, professional teachers, and we came together and we are working in the best interest of our children. And I want to thank everybody involved in doing that. With that said, all in favor of approving the contract, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank everyone for their hard work. The next action item on tonight's agenda is the second reading of Policy 404, Family and Medical Leave for School District Employees. Mr. Palmetier.
Thank you, Chair Ostafi, school board members, and Superintendent Corey McIntyre. Adoption or revision of Policy 404, Family and Medical Leave for School District Employees, and Policy 430, Recruitment and Selection of Employees, are action items on tonight's agenda. The first reading for these policies was conducted at the regular board meeting on December 17th, 2019. At least 4 weeks have passed since the first reading of these policies, and under school board bylaws, if approved by the board this evening, the new or revised policies will be formally adopted. The proposed policies for the board's consideration or approval are as follows. Policy 404, as I already stated. Up to this time, the school district has not had a formal policy addressing the rights and responsibilities of the district and employees with respect to family, medical, and other types of leave. While a family medical leave policy is not strictly required under state or federal law, the district has previously been advised by the U.S. Department of Labor that it should adopt such a policy. The new policy incorporates many of the requirements of the FMLA regulations and Minnesota parenting leave laws. In addition, the policy reinforces that regular and predictable attendance are an essential function of all employment within the district. It clarifies that proper certification will be required for approval of FMLA leave, clarifies that the allotment of up to 12 weeks of FMLA leave will be provided on a rolling calendar basis, establishes that when taking FMLA leave, the general practice will be to require employees to utilize accrued sick leave. It allows for permissible use of fitness for duty certifications for employees returning from FMLA leave, and finally, it incorporates considerations for leave as a potential accommodation under the ADA. And then next is, next action item is policy 430, recruitment and selection of employees. This policy has not been reviewed for over 20 years, actually since March of 1999. The proposed revised policy maintains several of the provisions in the current policy, including a requirement for equal opportunity for employment for all persons within the district. However, the policy was updated to reflect, in this case, the priority work and efforts to hire and maintain a workforce that supports and reflects the diverse student populations that are served within the district. My recommendation and the recommendation of the policy subcommittee that the full board consider and adopt each of the above proposed action items.
Thank you, Mr. Palmetier. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 404, family medical leave for school district employees?
So moved.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say that it's my understanding that this policy is really just a direct reflection of our current practices, and that it's just something written down by advisement of people that have advised Tim, actually. So.
Thank you.
But I just didn't want anyone to think that the district's trying to like sneak one in or anything, but it's been, it's been the current practice, and it's
Correct.
not,
That would certainly not be my intent.
All right, any other discussion? Calling out our legal eagle. No, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next action item on tonight's agenda is the second reading of policy 430, recruitment and selection. Mr. Palmetier.
He already talked about that.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
No, I'm just reading what's in front of me. So is there board members, is there a motion to approve the second reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to approve the second reading of policy 430, recruitment and selection, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. The final action item tonight is the recommendation to accept gifts to the district totaling $211,177.40 and a bunch of other equipment worth at least 10 grand more. Is there a motion to accept the gifts to the district totaling that huge amount?
So graciously moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Wow. I just want to say thank you to everybody. It is individuals, it is boosters, it is PTAs, corporations, to our automotive program. Last month we got a turbocharger. This month we got a tire changer. We get a lot of things from our partners and our community members. Thank you to everybody. I had Sherry look, and we can't find anything greater than this in the last 5 years. This has to be a record, and maybe, who knows, going back deeper, but I haven't heard of anything like this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And all in favor of accepting these gracious gifts, please say aye. 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 Opposed? I don't think so. Thank you all. At this time, the board will be going into a closed session. Is there a motion to recess the regular meeting for 5 to 10 minutes and reconvene in room N10 for the purpose of a closed meeting of the Osseo Area School Board pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 to consider strategy, parameters, and developments and labor negotiations for the following bargaining groups, principals, and salaried professionals? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion passes 6-0. This meeting is now in recess at 7:48 PM. The school board will adjourn at the conclusion of the closed session. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.